Hi everyone, welcome back. This is episode 3 of Real Voices. In our last episode, we were talking about perhaps a bit more about academia, how the thesis was converted into a film, a bit about my journey. But Alex, I really want to ask you about your journey as well with this, if that's okay today.
Absolutely,
it's about
yeah.
you, all about you today.
Yeah.
Because obviously we were talking last week about, in our last episode even, about how some of the work that I'd done to get the film Queering Blackpool. But I want to pick your brains a bit more on the technical side, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
I'd love to know, when we first started talking, did you have initial thoughts as to what the end piece might look like? And was it really different to what we ended up with?
Yeah, so the kind of there's no rule of thumb when it comes to filmmaking because there's experimental, there's narrative, there's linear. Then if you look at Christopher Nolan's films like Tenet, most of the film goes backwards. So my initial thought was understanding what the concept is, right. I have an idea what the film is, or we have an idea what the film is. Then we shoot it. Then the film evolves to the shooting version, and then it comes to the edit. So the film's always going to be in 3. So it's what you initially think it is. Even when you've got a storyboarded film, the only massive films like a Marvel movie will really know what the end product is going to be roughly, based on the special effects and the budget and how expensive it is, because they need to know exactly what needs to be shot. My approach was going to be understanding the content with yourself. I had an initial idea, and I've said this in the Q&A that's on Joe Brassens' podcast about the working like a rundown flat, dishes in the sink, and a bad wig and a drag star smoking a cigarette. That was my initial image. I just had Lily. It was kind of Lily Savage, so I pictured Lily Savage, almost like in a sketch form, because they, even if they're in a bad situation, they'll come out of it comedically sometimes. So that was my initial thought, and then it was speaking with you in terms of the okay, who are we interviewing? We talked about hero of the piece. We actually, we won't necessarily, say the secrets of what the secret sauce is of the film, but it's the shift from who was going to be the spearhead of the film to the real heart, the beating heart of the film. It changed, and once we realized that, it was like, oh my god, like light bulb moment in the film. And that was during production. So
Yeah.
I think
I'd agree with
with the documentary, it's you go in right. Let's tell this story about A, B, and C, and how we connect those and all that. So there's kind of a rough documentary approach, and you need like cutaways, you need interviews, that kind of thing, set up, and peaks and troughs, and negative and positivity. But then it was when we were capturing stuff, it was let's just get everything was gold dust. And the most difficult part of the film for me, and I may have told you this, might not have, is just a little side junction. We're going to talk about every aspect of the film. Every so often, we're going to talk about aspects of this film, but the specific one was structuring the film. So
how do you do that? Because obviously, I've
you see my hairline. You see my hairline.
How did you?
My hairline.
Yeah.
My hairline was probably about there when we. If you can't see it, sorry if you're just listening, but it was. I had a better hairline at the time. So when we shot everything, and obviously we went back for pickups with a couple of people and shoot some additional night and drone stuff and all of that. That was the biggest moment of what the F am I going to do here? Because it wasn't fair to you to go, right, I need you around here every day. I'm a very competent editor. I've been doing editing since 1999, so I've done sports awards and all sorts of stuff and experience on big things and small things and all that. And I knew I had it in me to do it because I have a lot of motivation from my wife and a lot of other production people I work with that work on TV and film. And it was looking at all the material, and you have to look through everything. That wasn't a daunting thing. It was doing it justice because, if we reflect on the episode 2, we talk about the hard work you went through. The hard work and the process, the digestion of everything was daunting because I think there's 14 interviews. Some are tiny, like 30 seconds. Some are a couple of hours. So it was sifting through everything and watching every single second of the film again. And that's, because there's moments of pure gold in the film that are through sifting through the film. And just to kind of talk about a huge movie, when Apocalypse Now was being produced, and I think they took 3 years to make the film, and that's very rare that anyone gets that time. The director, they used to have film bins, when they actually used to shoot films on film, or they still do now to a certain degree. But they used to go through I can't remember the technical term, but there's an edit bay machine, physically look through with a loop, look through every bit of film. And now the opening shot of Apocalypse Now, if you remember it or not, is a line of trees and they get a napalm attack, and it's This Is the End music plays over it. And that was found in a film bin by Coppola, and he thought, what's this? And he went through a couple of things. I thought, that's an amazing moment. It was an extra shot from the middle of the film. There was just a random camera that was set up. And just because when they have an explosion, they usually have 12 cameras, and they did have 12 cameras. So my approach was going through everything, we'd spent, how long did we start? How long did we shoot for? It was like 8 months, something like that, on and off.
Yeah. I want to ask you something. Actually, you've just made me think of something.
Let's think about 8 or 9 months. I think 12, maybe.
It was more. It was longer.
It's longer than
Because
that, and then the edit was almost as long as well. And it was watching every single thing, making extensive hand notes first. It was like reprocessing it, and it was like the volume of it. I went into kind of panic mode behind the scenes on my own, and I spoke to Vicky, my wife, about it extensively. Sorry, I got a burp in me. And I was like, what do I do? So, and then I thought about conversations that we had about themes. So I thought, right, let's start writing the themes down. We knew what the themes were: acceptance, intolerance, and then there were so many other aspects to, community aspects. And then I started to, with yourself, we started to kind of think about the structure of the film. Okay, let's hit them with a real intro. What do I like to see in a movie? I like to see a cold open and show off the city. Okay, that'd be nice drone shots. So I started to structure the film in, I think it was 7 acts in total, but we'll do a separate episode just about the actual edit at some point. And then it was, right, we need to have a, what do we call it? The almost like, let's call it the dark side, and it was what happened during the 80s. So the structure of the film is linear in terms of it being told, but then we flash back to the 80s and the prime minister at the time and what was said, and that was a really powerful moment that you came up with a particular speech by Margaret Thatcher, and that had a real moment in the 2 sold out showings we had in cinemas.
Can I ask you something? Can I just
Sure, yeah.
just jump in? So just what you said there, but also what you were saying before about the piece of footage from
Apocalypse Now, yeah.
Yeah. Was there anything during the whole process? Was there any unexpected moment that made it to the film that you thought, whoa, that it was completely unexpected? It happened by chance. Was there anything that I'm really throwing you on the spot?
No, there's some moments that are unexpected that happened in the edit bay that did make into the film.
Yes, there are.
Nothing untoward, but some laughs between me and Helen. I would say, like, when the biggest thing with the interviews is you start with the main camera angle, the other camera angles, you put the audio in, and there's moments that happened where we tell every single interviewee, like Adrian or Basil, whoever it is, or Shirley, that we're recording now, and you've got a hot mic. So hot mic means that expect everything to be recorded. And there was alternative audio that I used underneath footage that was told in a, I wouldn't say more genuine way, but it came across more organically,
Mhm.
and there wasn't the story version. And that was I've been on shoots before where someone's telling me something, and then you see the mask slips and the real person. So we had really genuine people, and it was things like, I'd say the biggest moment was, I'll tell you two things: one thing that's in the film and one thing that's not. And when we went to shoot, there's a scene in the makeup shop, and Peter Hewitt, Ellie
Yeah.
Hewitt, is one of the original lineup, and he worked the costume designer, amazing. I left the lapel mic on Adrian. He went to park the car. So imagine you and I are in the shop. He goes to park the car, and I had 10 minutes of him walking across Blackpool with the audio, and it's just ambient sound. And every so often, oh hey, how you doing, Zoe? How you doing, Adrian? It was like a real insight to how massive Adrian is in Blackpool, and DJ Zoe. So that was like off camera, unused. It just didn't make sense to use it, but it was wonderful to hear it.
I suppose it's quite affirming, isn't it, when you
Yeah,
hear
you can
something
hear
like
him.
that?
You can hear him getting his keys. Oh bollocks, where are my keys and all of that. So that was really funny. But then
Yeah.
the moment that I didn't realize what you were saying in terms of when you have a camera and the filter.
Mhm.
There's a documentary about a guy that the restaurant guy that fell at the World Trade Center restaurant, and the photographer. There's a documentary just about that photo. But when I was shooting in the back of Adrian's car, we were talking about the people he lost. I knew, in terms of documentary, keep filming because you will effing miss stuff. There's moments of gold, like he wipes a tear away, and I wasn't expecting that. And it was when I saw it in the edit bay, and I think I became more emotionally available. I am anyway, but more emotionally available making this film, because there's people that go through this that I'm in a privileged position where I, I've had bullying in the past, but my wife's had racial abuse in the past, and when I uh, started to process all this footage, process it as in terms of looking through everything, it was um, wow, I became so accessible, and it was just, I think it made, I think we, through the edit and working with you, I think we ended up making a better film because of that. And yeah, once I had that structure and the themes, so say there's seven chapters, like big,
Yeah.
the intro, peaks and troughs, and the conclusion. I listened to every single interview. I transcribed everything. And transcribe means basically there's a tool within the editing tool I use that transcribed every single interview into the written word, and then I put that on a document. I think it was 168 pages, something like that. It was massive. It's massive, like a movie script, and it was every single word said. So then I started allocating phrases. I used shorthand approach to, someone mentions HIV or AIDS. Okay, that goes into, like a certain folder. So I put everything, started bulking things together from across all the interviews. And then that approach helped me digest the content. Like one clip was 11 boob jobs. Okay, that was an interview clip, so it goes here, and that didn't make it into the
Do
film.
you
But
know what? I've got to bring that up now, Alex. When obviously looking at everything that we had on the screens and,
yeah,
and looking at the different file names and everything, if anybody could have seen what they were called,
I know.
absolutely hilarious. Some of the,
Yeah,
some of the names, but it was interesting because when you said like 11 boob jobs, we know exactly what that bit is. It
yeah,
summed up
yeah,
that
yeah,
whole
exactly. So
question.
that
Yeah.
was, imagine me trying to, like, it's difficult because you want to shorthand, and the process of, you can't put a whole chunky important bit as one clip because it was like 10 minutes or something like that. It needs to break it up so you can start cross pollination across all the different sections of the film, like the past, like when referring to, what do they call it, the 2 weeks, what's the whole
Or
thing?
the wait weeks.
Yeah, the wake weeks. So okay, every reference to weeks would go nicely together, and it's a relatively straightforward process, but it was mammoth. It was absolutely mammoth. So that was the easy part, And then it was when you go into the actual process of sewing it together. Okay, who do I start with? Okay, then I had little digital post-it notes. This will start working with here, and you start stringing it together. And then if you look at the whole picture straight away, it's like
It's
melt,
overwhelming,
melt your
isn't it?
brain. But it was massively overwhelming. But once I had that structure, once I worked out the themes with yourself, and what the themes are obvious when it comes to even the inception of the film. But when it came to the storytelling, then that hero, will, because people know it's Adrian and DJ Zoe. It the film started to reveal itself, and the best way I described it was doing a jigsaw, and then you find out what the image is on the box when you put the last piece in. So that sums up how I kind of structured the film. But yeah,
But it's also it's doing it justice as well. So you might have a
massively
theme, and
so.
it's
Yeah,
really similar to an academic piece of work, like thematic analysis. You look at your themes, but it's also you might have these themes, but you want to do it justice. You don't just go with those themes necessarily because they're there and they're really explicit. You've got that relationship with the people in the film or with your participants, if you
yeah,
want to call them. Yeah. It's about doing it justice, and that. How did you find that? Because it is a balancing
yeah.
act, isn't it? Because
It's
you find that tricky at times.
oh my god, yeah. It is because sometimes I think the thing to be aware of is like actors in a movie. I know one actor friend. He was in a Mel Street film with Hugh Grant. He was filming in Liverpool, and he was running down the street. Mel Street's running down the street, and he's 15 feet diagonally away from her. And he was like, "Oh my god, I share the screen with Mel Streep." Anyone saying that, you could see his face, everything. When he went to the premiere, he was taking out the film digitally, so they removed people to kind of give more focus to her.
Yeah,
And it's the same thing with the film. The important thing is we got all this amazing access that with yourself and asking permission and doing things on the slide and all of that. And um, but it was, even though we filmed it, you can't necessarily put everything in, and
yeah,
that's a difficult thing where you're processing everything. I'm just going to move this camera back over here. Yeah, it was doing it justice. I think I had post-it notes on my desk at the time, so
mm,
it was almost like it was like a mile marker going, right, doing this justice. Every day I looked at the footage and you're doing this justice. You hear about someone that lost his life based on something stupid like getting beaten up by the police or something, and you're doing this justice because there was no other way to make it. I think morally there was the right thing to do, and it was, in terms
absolutely,
of from
yeah,
an entertainment point of view or a film point of view, it was the only way to do it, because otherwise, because I like to think we're genuine people, it's we'd really do, we wouldn't feel comfortable. There'd be like a gut, like a food poisoning vibe going on. It's
yeah,
like,
yeah,
so doing it justice was important. And if someone wants to tell a story in a certain way, but then I find a version that's a better telling of it. Like there's a whole shoot we did, a Q&A section where the two main people in the film, we filmed the whole thing live, amazing. There's huge production. It wasn't just production for us. It was like a huge, there's hundreds of people there, but didn't use any of it because it was the most staged version of a funny
exactly,
story.
yeah. It didn't fit, did
No,
it?
none of it
But it
fit at all. It was
But I
kind of,
suppose then somebody else, if they'd been producing it, they might have seen that and thought, "Oh, yeah, we've not got this particular angle, we've not got that." But it
it was,
it
it
wasn't
was like,
right,
yeah,
did it?
it was like the sales version. It was like really,
Yeah.
it was like, it wouldn't, there was tiny things. There was a joke. There was like, okay, I need to find something funny about a certain person. So Adrian told this story about, I think it was Adrian's mum, and there was someone in the house.
Oh,
This the question I asked off camera and I asked at the event, um, and it was funny. Okay, that's a really funny moment, and it's a great way to show how razor sharp DJ Zoe was on the stage, and the real kind of how real life is, but it just didn't fit. It wasn't the story content; it was the context. So context
Exactly.
is
Yeah.
super important when it came to the structure, and you know, and it was when we came to do our pickups. Like the last, the couple of days of shooting or something, we talked about is this right to go back and shoot this, and there's a big change. And I think the way we structured the very end of the film, because there's like I won't say it's not mid-season, it's not a mid credits scene, but it's like we go to fade to black. People think it's the end of the film. Comes back up. There's an extra scene, and when people get to see this on a wider context, and that might be a while yet because we were in festivals, it makes sense. And that was we questioned whether we should go and do that or not, but it made sense to like the
It's
angle you and
perfect.
I had to approach. We won't necessarily say what that is, but we
Yeah.
talked about that. And okay, do we need to get everyone's opinion on this? And we knew what the truth was, so I was comfortable enough, and you were too, to approach it the way we did. The very end of the film.
I think it's fair to say that it was delicate.
Yeah,
It was really delicate. It was very fragile. But I think, the whole approach, like you keep saying, we did it justice. And
yeah,
it was that whole process.
yeah. I,
I think, sorry, go on,
no, no, no.
Alex.
It's so important. It wasn't just out of respect for you or the people, the amazing people, amazing people like Shirley and Diana that we work with, and obviously Adrian. But it's an integrity thing as well,
Yeah.
because your work, there's so much integrity in it. And then it was me as a filmmaker, and how I like to think I'm really genuine with people. I'm very, like I said to you, I think in the first episode, I'm easy to play poker against because you can read my face easy,
Yeah.
and we're not going to play
Yeah.
poker.
I was
Um,
going to say, I'm going to challenge you to a
yeah,
game, but
but it
that's why
was,
it's worked.
yeah,
That's why it's worked.
yeah.
And, some of these themes that we've spoken about today, I know they're going to appear in future episodes. We've got so much to cover.
Yeah,
Um, and I
100%.
think,
Yeah.
us as people and creators, these are themes that are going to naturally be cropping up regardless of what we talk about. But it's been really insightful hearing things from your perspective,
Oh yeah, the
because obviously
struggle.
it's interesting, and it's been really great. And thank you
Yeah.
so much for being honest and open about
No, well
everything.
that's why it's worked so well. We've not really disagreed on too much, but it's like it's really important to be, because we are so intrinsically linked. I think we both are now to the material, especially yourself. It's our communication has to. There was no other way of making this film. There really
Yeah.
wasn't. But yeah, thanks for talking about that, because it's like one of those things that even an editor on a big feature film will continue to work on scenes even when the director's not there. Director normally sits on the couch behind and all of that. So
Mm.
the approach, it was daunting, but when all the post-it notes start getting moved around on the tool I used online, and we'll do something separate about that. Yeah, it was really satisfying, because it was like I was finding the corner pieces, I was finding the edges, the color sections of the image, the jigsaw, and it was like, oh my god, this is going to work. And then we started putting scenes together, and it was like, this is great. And then we had a great laugh. We had a great laugh in the edit bay, and
We certainly did.
certain things will stay off camera, like the
Oh, that's been brilliant, Alex. And like I said, I think some of these themes, they're going to come in
yeah.
time and time again. But it'd be really interesting, if anybody's listening to this, what are your thoughts? Is there anything else that perhaps we haven't covered in this episode or the previous one that you'd like to know more about? Because we've got things planned, but it's always really good to hear what other people think as well. I think because that's us, that's how we work. We're not just stuck in our own little silos. We need to know what other people think and what interests people. So let us know.
Okay, I think that's the end of our time, isn't it?
I think so. Thank you.
Okay, see you all soon. Bye bye.
See you soon.